Good afternoon, everyone from all around the world. My name is Damir, and welcome to the Happiness Summit by Food for Thought, where we're going to be discussing how to boost our happiness and well being in various areas of life. Our topic for this panel is one that's very interesting and very important for us. It's mindfulness. And to talk more about this topic and to have more knowledge about it, we have two very special guests and inspiring guests with us today, Sarah Pipher and Martin Durak. I would like to thank everyone for being with us here today. Thank you so much, Sarah and Martin, for being with us in this panel and for sharing with us your insights and knowledge. So let's dive into today's session topic. And can you please start by introducing yourself to our viewers and tell them what drew you to the field of positive psychology? How is it possibly related to your current field as well? Sarah, would you like to
Sure,
start?
I'll start. I'm Sarah Pipher, and I work with habits, happiness, and essential oils. So one of the things that I specialize in is working with moms with special needs kids. They tend to need extra time and energy to pursue things outside of the home. So I help them to navigate that. And I also help them feel more connected at home and with the relationships at home. What drew me to positive psychology? I actually remember a time when I was walking with a friend of mine, and I was struggling with my kids. I was struggling at home. Everything was negative. And the entire walk, I just complained. And I got home and I thought, ooh, this isn't who I want to be. And I started to kind of dig into it. And my first foray was just simply taking a yoga class. And I honestly have to say, I thought for years that I was being mindful and meditating. And over time, I discovered that just because I'm laying on the floor after my yoga session doesn't mean I'm being mindful and I'm connecting. So that really pulled me in a little bit more. So,
Wow,
yeah.
that's very interesting, actually. And Martin, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself as well and what drew you to positive psychology?
Well, absolutely. Nice to meet you, everybody who's watching. And my name is Martin Durak, and I'm with Millimar Center. And me and my girlfriend, we specialize in helping people heal trauma and get out of toxic relationships. And if you ask me what brought me to positive psychology, I remember that I was going through this phase in my life where I was like really struggling to feel happy about anything and just wondering how come people who seemingly have less than me are just seem way happier, right? Like I was meeting people who have smaller cars, less money, and harder job, and then the person would be laughing and smiling and just in a positive mood all day, right? And I remember that was the time when I was like, what the hell is going on? How is it possible? Like how come I'm not feeling happier than that person who seems to be in a worse position? And that's when I started to doing my research and thinking about what is happiness and what is what is being positive, why people are positive, like what brings them to that place. And yeah, that's when it all started. And I was like, oh my god, there's actually a science of happiness. What a cool thing.
Yeah, that's what I love too. Is it's a science. There's actual facts and figures behind this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's actually very interesting because a lot of people, I think, like many people today, also feel this. Like, why am I not happy with my life if I have these things and if I'm fulfilling a better life than other people? And this is actually something very interesting. Uh, so, so as we talk about mindfulness today, how did you come across this term, and what do you think is the definition of mindfulness from your perspective? I mean, Martin, would you like to tell us more about this?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so I would say that the first time I truly understood like what is mindfulness, as Sarah said, like we've been on all trying. I think a lot of people have been trying to do these things what seems that when we do, we'll be mindful, right? But there's just this kind of secret thing behind, right? Like what nobody realizes right away. Just sitting there for 15 minutes and calling it meditation, or laying on the floor after yoga, as you said, is not being mindful completely, right? So yeah, so I would say that from my perspective, being mindful is when we are kind of creating that little pause before our reaction to something, and we simply observe what is happening in our within ourselves, right, in our inner world, like what kind of thoughts we have, what kind of emotions we have, what kind of sensations we feel, and then we truly choose our response to that, rather, right? So I to simply I would simply say it's just creating that little pause there, what gives us another option. Right? This is what I would say being mindful, in my perspective, is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's like when we have this pause and when we start to be more aware of what we're feeling, what we're thinking, our
Mhm.
current situation. Okay, very interesting. And Sarah, do you have a different point of view or a different definition for mindfulness?
No, I think I agree with that. It's paying attention. It's using all of our senses. It's not allowing any judgment to creep in. It's maybe noticing an idea and not judging it, acknowledging it. It's patience. It's bringing in curiosity. But
Mhm.
having that pause will allow you to totally reset. And I have found that very useful with mindfulness. It,
Um, Sorry.
I was just going to say, and this is something that really pertains to my field too, in working with parents of special needs kids. Is, they may come in, for example, a child may be at school and be doing fabulous at school, and then they come home and they let loose. They start crying or complaining, and having that little pause will allow a parent to get curious and say, why is that happening, rather than reacting. So that's another piece of it, is it helps you to not be so reactive.
Mhm.
Martin, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to just add on top of that, because I absolutely agree. Is that I mean, I actually didn't completely understand what mindfulness is until I read this amazing book. I can recommend everybody. We can recommend books here, right? Or is that okay? Okay, great. So it's a book from Mike Singer, and it's called The Untethered Soul. And it's just, that's when I really understood, like, I guess it helped me personally to understand what mindfulness is really, and like the fact of observing, and that I am not my emotions, I'm not my feelings, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my sensations. I am the one who sees it all, right? That's a big difference. So because you can never really stop seeing, but you can like cover your eyes, you can cover your ears, you can like you can stop the sensory information coming in. You can, like your thoughts changing too. Like when you were 5, you had different kind of thoughts than you have now, and all that is just something what you're observing. But if you remove that, you would still be the one who could see the thoughts and feelings, but the thoughts and feelings are like moving and changing, right? So we are not that. That's what I'm trying to say. Like,
Yeah, we're being, right? We're more being than doing. It's
yeah, exactly. It's like you are the awareness of what's happening. You are not what is happening, if that makes sense, right? Like I'm aware of my emotions and my feelings. I am not that feeling. Like I can choose what I do with those feelings and emotions, and that's that little pause, right? But I am right. Do you want to say something?
that you're, yeah, the thinker thinking the thought, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
thinker thinking the thought. You have control of that thought. Yeah.
yeah.
That's actually very interesting. I mean, so you're the thinker, you're not the thought. And I mean, that's very interesting what you're telling our audience about, because a lot of times I think people struggle to understand when someone tells them, you are not the thoughts. How come you are not the thoughts if you're thinking them? And it's when you separate yourself a little bit from your thoughts that I'm actually starting to understand this idea. Like when I was 5, for instance, I had different thoughts. So now I have other thoughts when I'm a different person. So this is something that's actually very quite interesting. I mean, drawing this distinction is for sure helping, will help our audience further understand this. Um, yes, very interesting, actually.
I think too, one thing that you can do is when you're in that moment is label that thought. If
Mhm,
I'm angry or frustrated at somebody, acknowledge it
mhm,
and just let it go, right? And
mhm,
that can help you to separate the thought from the being.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's
what? Sorry, did I interrupt you?
something very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say that I'm thinking of an example I can give to maybe clarify better. That one example would be when when you are in a conversation with someone, right? And let's say the person insults you, right?
Mhm,
And we don't have to get angry or defend ourselves. We don't have to attack them back. We don't have to verbally or physically you know get back at them. We can instead make that little pause I was talking about, right? Like take that little break, and
mhm,
then we can just observe what is being created by that conversation, or them saying those things to us.
mhm,
And I mean, it's not easy to do that, right? But it's such a powerful thing. It's like a superpower almost, yeah, right? Because then we can even think about the whole thing differently. Like we can think of why are they calling us these names, or why are they insulting us. Maybe they have been really hurt, and maybe it's because they had like some painful experiences, and this is the maybe that's a window into their own mind. Is this how they talk to themselves all the time, like that, and that's why it's normal for them to talk to others like that, right?
mhm,
So see where I'm getting. So instead of attacking back, right, with more anger and more fighting and arguing, I'm getting into a place of an empathy, right? I'm actually
mhm,
getting to a place where I'm understanding the one who's insulting me. And this is such a powerful thing, because it completely not only makes us get involved in that, right, and uh, fight violence or anger with anger, but rather we get in place of understanding. And yeah, imagine the whole world would be like that. We would be living in a completely different world.
And,
yes.
and and all you're doing is you're just pausing, taking a breath, and getting curious.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Why is this happening? Why do I feel this way? Why are they coming? Why are they presenting themselves this way? Just getting
mhm,
curious. And what's great about it is we all have this ability. It's You're not learning anything new, you're just cultivating it. It's
mhm,
something that we all have in us. It's just paying attention enough to pull that out.
Mhm.
yes. So we've actually talked about mindfulness, and we've talked about it in relation to different things, like we were mentioning our thoughts on certain situations, but you also mentioned our emotions. So when we talk about mindfulness, do we also get to see and how are we feeling in this specific point in time, and um, like see it as an outsider? Is
Mhm.
this, did I understand this correctly as well? So we're not just talking about thoughts, but also emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about thoughts, emotions, sensations, right? Any processes what are going on in our body, essentially, right,
Yeah.
Sarah?
Yeah, I think of it as a thought triggers the emotion.
Mhm,
So as soon as you hit that thought, if you can halt it by
mhm,
just taking a breath, by getting curious, you can
Hmm.
a lot of times avoid that emotion altogether, or you can at least soften it,
mhm,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Be less reactive.
mhm,
yeah, and the same way as you say that the thought triggers the emotion, it actually works the other way also, right? That's where the body comes into play. That sometimes we don't know why. Let's say I'm at home with my partner, right? And let's say they tell me to clean the dishes, right? And for some reason, I get so angry about, like, you don't tell me what to do, like I will clean the dishes when I want to clean them, right? And it's such a if you can see that this is such an inappropriate emotional reaction to just a small comment like clean the dishes, right? You shouldn't have this, like you shouldn't be mad about it for minutes after, like 20 hour later, right? You can recognize that this is one of your triggers coming from the body, right? It could be some trauma from the past where it actually is stored in your nervous system, in your body, and then the body creates emotion, like a feeling essentially, and those feelings start the thought, right? That's what I'm trying to say. It works the other way too. So yeah, it's really interesting how it works, and that's why it's even more important to be able to see it, right, rather than be it, and like just react without having the pause there.
Yeah, that's actually very important. So I think now we're actually discussing a little bit more like the benefits of mindfulness. So would you like to talk more about the benefits? Like Sarah, do you think there are also other benefits to mindfulness other than the ones we've already discussed?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, the curiosity piece, I think, is just such a huge one for me. And in the fact that you can also, that prevents you from being more reactive. So you're less reactive. But because you're softening those conversations, you also have the ability to improve your relationships, right? You're less reactive. That's gonna, and you're taking more interest in somebody else. Like, say a child they walk in the door from school and they're complaining and complaining, and you just kind of stop and say, whoa, what's happening here? And by getting curious, you're asking them questions. Now they're understanding that relationship is getting better and stronger. They know that they can come to you. They know you're not going to react. And so building relationships, I think, is a huge one.
Yeah, that's actually very important. I mean, especially with children, because if you have a very aggressive reaction, you don't know what will this leave in the future. I mean, this is actually very important. Or if your reaction is not the correct one, this can actually cause some trouble. So, Martin, what do you think? Do you think there are other benefits as well?
Yeah, like absolutely. There's just so many benefits if you really think about it, because it can transform your work relationships, not only your romantic or you know
Or family?
partnerships, but it can transform your work relationships. It can transform your family relationships. You can start seeing people with more empathy and kind of actually, in some cases, even be able to have a conversation, right? Like one, because sometimes our relationships are so tense because we are only just reacting. Um, we are not even able to have like a conversation where we can understand each other, right? So it's yeah, absolutely. So many, like as you can see, like this is such a wide area, right? You could, I can't actually, I can't. Maybe better question would be like, is there a place where being more mindful would not help you, or would not change?
We can actually get to that one too, right? But a couple other things. I mean, if you just take a couple of minutes in being mindful, um, you don't have those spikes in blood pressure, right? When you're angry and mad. So it's also improving and benefiting your health. You're not going to get so mentally distressed. You're going to be able to think better. You'll be, less mentally fatigued. So many things from just being mindful. Just
Very interesting.
feeling more in control.
Exactly. And I think we're talking about a deeper level of control. We're not just talking about about a person's reaction only, but about your inner self as well. Like this is what I'm understanding from you now, which is, I mean, it needs a really strong level of control, as you just mentioned, Sarah. And in order to reach this level of control, what would you recommend as top practices for mindfulness?
I think, first of all, if you're unfamiliar with it, I think a great place to start is a small, short, guided meditation. That way, you kind of understand a little bit better what you're going to be doing in smaller moments or in longer moments. Martin, I'm sure you've got lots of ideas.
Yeah, like meditation is definitely a big one. I would say top three for me would be definitely meditation or visualization. It's even a special form of meditation, and another two would, for me personally, are breath work and qigong. Actually, I don't know if you've heard about qigong, but it's a wonderful way where you kind of become really aware to your body, and you work with your energy and in your body, and at the same time you practice mindfulness and practice and you exercise, right? So that's really great. And yeah, you mentioned meditation and the breath work. This is such an easy tool we can access anytime also, right? Like the meditation is amazing, of course, but for someone who is starting, it's the best that they find at least few minutes time for that, right? But like with the breath, you can literally do it anytime, even when you're driving, right? When you are just anywhere. And it's simple as this, like how am I breathing? Like, what is my breathing pattern? Like, am I breathing down in my belly or am I breathing up in the chest? And just at that moment when we are looking inside of us in our inner world and looking at how we breathe, we are being mindful, right? We're being mindful of what is happening inside. So yeah, and then we start there, and then you get to a point where you can actually see what is your talk with yourself, right? And then you become mindful to that. Then you can become mindful to what is my talk, about what do I say to myself about others, and this is how it all goes. This is the way how I started, and this is what worked for me: meditation, breathing, focusing on the breath, and qigong.
I would agree with that. I started with, like I said, the guided meditations to understand a little bit better. But then I started to do just walking meditations, because that's something that I could incorporate in my day. Breathing, as you said, Martin, is just huge. And when we talk about taking a pause, it's really taking a breath, and that just gives us that space and awareness of what's going on. But who I work with, we all are really, really busy. So maybe standing in line at the grocery store while you're waiting to check out, that's a time that you can just take a couple minutes to breathe and pay attention and be aware of what's going on around you. Commuting to or from work. How many times, I can't even tell you how many times I used to commute into New York City, and I had an hour and a half commute. And some days I would be painfully aware of how long it would take me. And other days it would fly by. But I could have used that time so much more efficiently had I understood some of these practices now. And I could have made it a much more enjoyable experience.
Okay. So how can someone practice? No, go, Martin. You had something?
Yeah, I just remember that another easy way how to practice mindfulness is when we eat too. We do it several times a day, right? Instead of thinking, like, I think most of people would say that they are watching something, right, when they are eating, or like a lot of people it used to be like that, but at least in my circles, a lot of people are on YouTube, or on Facebook, or kind of doing something when they eat. But instead, you can actually look at the textures of the food and like be really aware of the smells and the flavors, and you can think of where is this food coming from and how the people who were growing it probably looked like, and all these kind of things, and be really connected to the moment of what you are doing, right? Because then it's again it comes down to the body, where we are literally telling our body what we are eating and digesting, and it has to decide all the digestive processes, how much of the acid to release, in the stomach and all that. So if you are watching YouTube about, I don't know, some Formula One race, and you're eating a burger, it's like, it would be way better. Yeah, it's like you're somewhere else, right? It would be way better if you could be mindful and present in that moment. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say.
Wow. Okay. So it actually, it's like in every single aspect of our lives. But yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Another thing that I like to do is, when I'm working, is use mindfulness in my transitions, or do like a little mini meditation. So just take a couple of breaths when I'm transitioning, maybe from writing to getting ready to get on the phone and do a phone call. Just take a moment and just breathe and just clear out my mind a little bit. And that will allow me to be more present when I get onto that phone call. So little transitions. Some people I know will use it even, going to the bathroom. When you walk into the bathroom, just start paying attention to your awareness and just take a couple of deep breaths and come
So
out.
it's actually
Go ahead.
no. So I felt like it's really related to also paying attention to the moment that we're in.
Yeah, it's all about awareness of the moment. It's about using our senses and truly being there. I mean, so much of our time is spent thinking about the past, right? And that's where the fear comes from, or thinking about the future and, any anxieties that we have about that. So when we're not worried about the past or the future, we can be present, and that's where the happiness comes in. And that's, we're safe in this space that we are right now.
Yeah, and coming back to, because this is all about positive psychology, right? So the science of happiness. So I'm just coming back to the emotions, that the fact that you are able to be mindful of your own thoughts and feelings, and as Sarah said, your thoughts can trigger emotions. You can, instead of being I would say, a slave to your emotions, like someone, like, because some people go through their day constantly angry, right? And and if you become mindful to that, you can instead be constantly happy. Like, you can choose to think thoughts what will make you feel happy. Like, for example, as Sarah said, if you're driving to work, you can, instead of thinking of how slow it goes and how everybody drives like a maniac, you can think of what beautiful things you have in your life, right? That you are healthy, that you can walk, you can see, that you have kids, and all these kind of things. And you would be only able to do that if you are mindful, right? If you just are not seeing what's happening inside, then you're kind of in chaos of what's happening, right?
Yes, I mean, that's actually very true. So, do you think there are actually challenges to practicing mindfulness in our lives, in our very busy schedule? I mean, you've actually mentioned a lot of times that that we can use mindfulness and practice it in our normal daily life. But do you think there are still some challenges for people?
Well, and that's Martin, back to the mindfulness and mindlessness, right? We have a choice that we can do it focused or we can do it unfocused. And unfocused could be as you're driving, all of a sudden you're at work and you don't even know how you got there. That's totally unfocused, right? That's mindlessness.
Yeah.
But we can also harness mindlessness in the form of a habit. And so that we can do those things like brushing our teeth without having to think about it, right? And that frees us up too. So understanding the difference between the two, you get a choice.
Yeah. And to touch up on the challenges, right? Like, coming to actually being able to do that. Well, it's the real challenge, in my opinion, is the fact that maybe practicing the mindfulness, like, for people who have never done it, might not bring like right immediate result. It's the same like going to the gym. You go once and you are just sore, and but you are not ripped, right? But if you go 5 or 10 times, you will stop being sore, but you will start seeing maybe some changes, right? You will feel stronger, you will feel you can do more weight, maybe you will see the muscles growing and stuff like that. So it's the same with mindfulness, right? It's a skill we have to practice, and that this is where I see the challenge for people when they try and they say, well, nothing happened. I was sitting there for 15 minutes and I'm not any wiser or more awake or anything like that. This is nonsense. But if you do it more and more, then that becomes, I call it a breakthrough, where you become like disconnected from all these processes. You start being like, okay, yeah, I've been sitting here for 15 minutes and all these things were going on in my mind, but I just let them go, and that's being, instead of like chasing the answers and thinking about it and like actually, being dragged into it. So yeah, I think the biggest challenge is to just not get discouraged by not immediate results or like effects. right? What would you say, Sarah?
Yeah, there's been studies that say, I was just reading a study recently that it was 8 weeks, 30 minutes a day, and there were quantifiable results. People had more confidence, they slept
Mhm.
better, they, all these other benefits that we were talking about. They had better relationships. So it is a muscle that needs to be worked, and it's
Mhm.
building a new, what we call the neural pathway in our brains.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the easiest way how to start, because I see this as the biggest challenge, is to start with the small things, as we were mentioning before, right? Like if you're thinking about, okay, how do I become more mindful, and I don't want to sit for 8 weeks every day for 10 minutes, like some people are just, they won't do that, right? So for me, or I have great news for you actually, if you want to try it from positive psychology, is that you can do it in the smallest things, when what you do on everyday basis, as we talked about, right? Like drinking coffee, looking at the phone, like taking a breath, looking at the phone, or looking at the food. So you're not taking any extra time to do anything, you are just doing it while you're doing your normal things, right?
Yeah.
And then you might see some benefits, and after that you might decide, okay, you know what, I love that, maybe I'll try to take 15 minutes for myself just to see what's here, right?
That's it. My group of folks, they couldn't sit for 30 minutes. There's no way. They don't have that kind of time. So 5-minute increments is, for most of my clientele, the most that they can do. So little 2-minute increments is perfect. And it's just stop and, look around you, smell, listen, using your ears. What do you hear, close? What do you
Yeah.
hear further away? I mean, just simple things, as Martin said, while you're cooking, while you're doing, in between tasks. You know, it's again, it's nothing that we all are born with this ability. It's nothing that we're really adding. We're just paying a little bit more attention to it. We're already doing it in the day.
Mhm.
Just we're building on that.
Yeah. That's actually so. I mean, so it's very important that people know that we can actually do this throughout the day. And it's also important to know that it might take some time, or it will take actually some time to improve in mindfulness. So we talked about mindfulness on a personal level. So, on an organizational level, do you think it can be applied as well?
I'll let Sarah go first.
Well, I think that there's an enormous amount of work that can be done within the organizations. One thing that I was reading recently was a statistic saying that 47% of individuals, this is here in the US,
Mhm.
are not paying attention at some point in time. 40, so you're almost at half. So if think about sitting in a meeting and and you're presenting and only half of the people are even paying
Or
attention to you. That's that's a big deal. So there's so many different ways that we can use positive psychology and mindfulness in the office. And I think just one of the quick ways is just, again, breathing techniques. You can introduce that before you do a meeting.
Mhm.
Just a couple seconds. Everybody just take a couple of deep breaths together and start to introduce that to the culture.
Mhm.
Martin, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, those are, yeah, absolutely agree. I think, just you know um, even taking a break when we are living these really busy schedules at work is one way of implementing mindfulness, right? Because knowing when and how we need to recharge, to or simply stop and take a break, as well as being able to handle a lot of pressure and overwhelming number of priority tasks, and it's literally life saving, right? So like, I know, and from my circles again, like I know my friends, they work in big companies, and they're just so overwhelmed from the amount of work and from the amount of stress, and it's just so much. And so introducing positive psychology and know, and being mindful to when you need to take a break, and maybe again, what are your thoughts, and being able to prioritize and all that, as well as communication is a big thing for me too. Like being able to communicate non-reactively, right, is a big thing. So same as we said, like if you can talk to someone and understand them rather than judge them and kind of defend yourself. So imagine the effect of that in the corporate world, right? Imagine that your
It's your
boss,
second family, right?
yeah.
It's your
Imagine that the
second
boss
family.
understands, yeah, exactly, yeah. Imagine that the boss understands you instead of bossing you, right, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I think having mindfulness introduced, again, before a meeting, before making a phone call, maybe before you eat your lunch, maybe even after you eat lunch and you get back into your work, it can really help to bring in the space for creativity and for innovation. It's going to help improve those relationships. It's going to provide improve the stress levels. And, if you're in a physical workspace, construction, something like this, it's going to help prevent accidents,
Mhm.
right? When people are aware and more aware of their surroundings. In fact, there was a study, this is probably about 10 or 12 years old now, saying that once mindfulness was introduced to an organization, that their return on investment increased 200%.
Mm. It's a great example, right? Yeah.
Great example. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, in the business world, I guess the biggest thing business owners listen to is the money, right? Like, so yeah, like if you introduce mindfulness, you improve the effectiveness of the communication and all that. It ends up, you having less meetings, or more effective processes in the organization, and that all ends up saving money, right, and all that.
It's
So
all the bottom line. Yep.
yeah,
It all
all the
comes down
bottom
to the
line.
bottom line. And that's how you would sell it, right? That's how you would introduce it into an organization. You
Yeah,
couldn't talk about all the touchy-feely stuff that happens. It would have to be really about the impact that it's going to have on the bottom line. That's the
yeah,
important thing to the organization.
yeah. So yeah,
So
there's a great
Sachin,
potential. Sorry.
yeah, no. You were saying something now.
No, I was just saying, yeah, so there's great potential in the organizational level, as you were asking. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, apparently there is, and apparently it's very important actually. So, I mean, I hope it becomes more and more introduced on an organizational level. So, one important thing, is there anything specific that you would like to see in the world of positive psychology in the upcoming years?
I would love to see positive psychology introduced into the school systems.
Mm.
I would love to have it as transitions for the kids. I would love to have it taught so that they know how to dig in and understand themselves better and be less reactive. I would love it for the teachers, because I have seen teachers who snap, and
Mm.
that's not what we want out of teachers. And it could also be introduced into the parents to help them as well. So having it into the school system can really handle, to really bring it to the people.
Yes, I mean, I also think this is very important, and I mean, because in the school system, I think there are a lot of things, not just in the school system, but for children in general, there are a lot of things that could continue with them as adults, and introducing this from the very beginning to those who deal with children from a very young age. I think it would help in improving a lot of aspects in adults' life in the future.
Oh, it improved their optimism and their curiosity and their resilience, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
And Martin, what do you think?
Yeah, actually, I was gonna say the same thing, because it's obviously the thing, right? What everybody would like to see. So maybe I would just add that, yeah, it's just so important that I think it would upgrade the humanity, to the next level, like at least the next generations, right? If we can teach those skills to kids as soon as we can, so the next generation would be like would be practicing these techniques and having these skills automatically, right? It would be something just ingrained in their system. And I think that would help in my opinion, would help with the stress, the depression people have. There has been this big strike in depression and all that during COVID, and we all heard about that, right? So all that hate, anger, violence, and wars, everything, it would help with everything if you really take it to the big picture. And like imagine, like the example I like to use is that maybe people would start caring more about the things what matter more, like at least more of them, right? I'm not saying no one cares, but we definitely need more people to care about our mental health, about the planet, and all these basic things. So maybe one day there would be same enthusiasm to, let's say, 100,000 people going to see a Manchester United soccer match, and as that same amount of enthusiasm about going and cleaning the beaches, like just a dream, but maybe that could happen, or at least I'm not saying we should not have fun, but we definitely need a balance of things, right? And only have fun is not the way. We also need to do.
I think cleaning the beach. I think cleaning the beach would be fun.
See, you could make it fun, right? That's the thing.
Can make it fun.
So I literally believe that teaching kids, new generations, these kind of things would kind of change them on such a basic level that maybe we would not have to teach them as adults later on, right? They would just have it in them, I hope.
Yeah, that it's mainstreamed, that it's just something that we all do.
Yeah, it's just something what we do. I don't have to think about not throwing garbage on the beach, I will just not do it because that's not what I do. Right? Because I'm mindful of everything. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And is there one final message that you would like to leave our viewers with?
I have a quote. This is from one of the positive psychology gurus, John Kabat-Zinn. And he says, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And I love that because stuff happens and it's going to try to pull us in, but we have control. We can control our emotions. We can control our reactions, and we can choose a different place and a different way of being. And mindfulness can really help us through and keep us on top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said it beautifully. So I will just add that maybe if there would be one thing you could take from today's talk, take this. You want to make your life better and better in every area using a way that doesn't really cost anything, and you can do it anywhere. Well, try practicing mindfulness. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's the here's another quote from John Kabat-Zinn. The little things, the little moments, they aren't little, right? They add up. So
yeah. The life is made of all the little moments, right? Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is very, very inspiring, I'm sure, for everyone. Is there anything else that you're saying, Martin, now, or?
Maybe I was not gonna say anything, but I can say something. I want to say thank
no, I mean, only if you want to.
Yes, I want to. I want to say thank you so much to Karim and Food for Thought, for sure. That's definitely something that I want to say. And yeah, it's been great. I've been really excited for a few days already. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would just like to encourage everybody to take 2 minutes and practice a little bit of mindfulness and just awareness of what their surroundings, just 2 minutes after we shut down here. Get started today.
Yeah. Thank you, Aya.
No, thank you so much. So, I mean, in the end of this panel, I'm really extremely sincerely thankful for both of you, for Sarah and for Martin. I mean, this has been an extremely enjoyable and beneficial discussion, and I'm pretty sure it will help everyone who actually has seen our panel today. I also want to thank our viewers for watching, and be sure to follow our guests through their bio links. You will find their links in the panel flyer in all of Food for Thought's channels. And if you have any questions, please place them in the comment section, and we are going to get back to you. So thank you so much for this very interesting discussion on mindfulness.
Thanks, Aya.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin.
And nice to see you, Sarah, again.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.